What's up, everybody? It's story time from the Kumba guy. I hope you've had a good week and the long weekend has begun well, and I hope you are going to enjoy it. Um, some of you may have noticed this week I have been posting videos from Namibia called Endless Horizons. So Namibia has got 10 regions, 14 regions, sorry, what we would call provinces. They've got 14 provinces or 14 regions, and they've made a video for each region as a tourism promotion. So I was just sharing those, but I want to give you a backstory of my trip to Namibia and how I came about all these videos. So in 2016, I made my first trip to Namibia. First time ever going to Namibia. And being a geographer that I am and a traveler, I had a few ideas about Namibia, that it's clean, it's quiet, it's a beautiful place. But the trip was very exciting. To start it off, I went to Namibia by flight. That was my first plane ride, okay? So that was quite exciting. It's a 2-hour flight, 1 hour 40 minutes. So Namibia is similar in distance from Lusaka to Joburg and to Gaborone in Botswana. They all take generally the same amount of time, 1 hour 40 to 2 hours to fly from Lusaka to Joburg, Lusaka to Gaborone, and Lusaka to Namibia. So my flight was in the evening, 16 hours. That time Air Namibia was still flying, and so it was an Air Namibia flight, and we got the Flamingo magazine. So yes, that was my first flight. It was very exciting, and we got to Namibia in the evening, Hosea Kotaku Airport, and the first thing I noticed was the beautiful sunset. You know, airports are wide open spaces and you can see the sunset, but the sunset is typical of Namibia. It's a very nice place and it's got very beautiful sunsets, at least from my experience. So that was in September that I traveled, of 2016. So we flew to Namibia. We were having a church conference, a church meeting in Windhoek, as they say. So I was there for we were there for a week, and so we spent some time in Windhoek. We're staying at a residential house in a very upmarket place called Eros Street. Still remember, something like Eros Street. And some places in Windhoek are very hilly. I was even saying that's a very good place to learn how to drive a manual, because all the roads at the end of the street before you turn, there's this very hilly relief within Windhoek. Driving around Windhoek, one of the highways we drove on has, as the streets along that highway, I've forgotten the name of the highway, but the streets along that highway have got the names of presidents within Africa. So if you know that road, just comment in the comments and tell me the name of that road. But you find as you go along the road, you find Kenneth Kaunda Street, Nelson Mandela, Sam Nujoma, and a lot of leaders as you go along that highway, which I think is a very nice thing, you know. You learn a lot about Africa and African leaders and so on because of that. So that was one of the very interesting things. There's another road where there's a beautiful German church, old architectural church. I don't even know if it's still a church or if it's a museum now or something like that. Now, as you all know, Namibia was colonized by Germany and it was called Southwest. I don't know, forgotten. Yeah, that was its old colonial name, Southwest Africa. So there's heavy German influence, even up to today. Even in many towns, you definitely see the Germany in Namibia. So as you're driving along the road, you're heading that way, you actually see the building a distance away, and then you drive to the left and you see the church. I was hoping to visit it, but we never did have time. But it's a very beautiful church. I'll share a picture again. And that was another interesting feature of Windhoek that that I can remember. The ride from the airport into the city is quite a distance away, as most airports are away from the city. And so we drove there in the dark because we arrived around 18 hours. And so we check in and everything and so on, and then getting the vehicle and everything. Getting into town was into the night. So entering Namibia, entering Windhoek was a nighttime experience. But it's a very good city. It was a very nice time to be there. But part of our trip was not just in Namibia, not just in Windhoek, or Kitmans for short. Kitmans is way down. It's like 6-7 hours drive south of Windhoek, and I think that was on a Saturday. We arrived on a Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then on a Saturday we drove down to there. The roads are okay. It's your average road. It's a good road. As we were driving, we came across, the sun was going down, it became evening. And so there was a moment where we actually just stopped to see the sunset and to take pictures. I don't have the pictures of the sunset, but I have a picture of somebody taking a picture of us having the sunset. It was beautiful. It was amazing. We could see the sun go down, and I told him, look, we need to stop at some point to take pictures of the sunset. Good thing we're driving in a car, private vehicle. So we stopped and we took pictures of the sunset. It looked amazing. Because of its nature, it's very arid, it's very plain and so on. You can see a lot of that in Namibia. And as you drive down, you can see a lot of the sands of the desert. There's some dry places and so on and so forth. Another interesting thing I saw was the towers, the network towers. They're not the way we have our network towers, the frame, red and white frames, but they're actually built. So you see these big white structures, and then on top there's a bit of the tower built up there. So I found that rather interesting. I was like, what are those structures? Oh, those are network towers. So that was something interesting I saw as we were going along. And then another thing was that Namibia has at least 4 towns that have got biblical names. So as we're driving, I'm like, oh, this town is here, this town is here, very observant and so on. So you have towns like Mariento and so on and so forth as you keep going down. But I noticed a number of towns. One is Rehoboth. I think Rehoboth is the first town as you leave Windhoek, as you're going south. Rehoboth is a Bible name. And then later on we found, how can I forget? There's Bethany, or Bethany, I don't know how they say it. There's also Gibeon, and I've forgotten the 4th. I'll just write it down. So Namibia has, I mean, I'm a Christian, so being a Christian, that was a very interesting, that was a point of note, something to observe, and I found it rather nice. I don't know how they did get their names and why, but that was nice. Rehoboth, actually, there's Rehoboth written somewhere on the mountainside. You know how there's that Hollywood thing. So they have Rehoboth written on the mountainside over there. So that was rather interesting. So when we got to Kitmans, Kitmans is a small town, very, very small town, very interesting small town. But one thing I did notice, on Sunday after church, we had visited a church and we were getting back to where we were staying, and so we were driving through town, and I actually said, Kitmans has real Sunday, because the town is empty, the shops are closed, there's just a handful of people walking in the streets. You really know that today is Sunday. Nothing is happening. I don't know how it is now, but in 2016 when we were there, Kitmans was a Sunday Sunday town. I don't know how strong the Christian tradition is there, and if people go to church or people just don't do anything on Sunday. But that was something I really noticed. Of course, like Windhoek, Kitmans is also very clean. It's a beautiful, clean town. If you know about Southern African countries, you know that Namibia and Botswana are very similar in that they're sparsely populated. Also, they are very arid, little to no water because of the desert. Namibia has got the Namib Desert, Botswana has got the Kalahari, which extends somewhat partially into eastern Namibia as well. So it's a very arid place. Yeah, so it's very similar in that regard, but it's very sparsely populated. The population is like what, 2-3 million now, both in Botswana and in Namibia. So there was really few people in town, and you could see that on a Sunday very much. We climbed up somewhere, and there's a hill in Kitmans, and you could see the town from up there. It was looking good. I'll show you the picture as well. And that was partly my experience in Kitmans. So we drove back a few days later. I think that was a Tuesday. We were set to fly back to Zambia on Wednesday. So we drove back on Monday, I think. And on Tuesday, I did make an effort. So once we were back at Windhoek, I really wanted, I'm a tourist guy, so I really wanted to visit the Namibian tourism offices and see what they have to offer. And that's where I got those videos. So I was given a DVD, Endless Horizons. So it had all those 14 videos and a bunch, and they gave me a lot of other stuff, some beautiful booklets, thick booklets of Namibian tourism. There's a lot, and a bunch of these maps. This is southern Namibia. I think there was northern Namibia. I think I have about 3 or so of them. So very good maps, which most countries have, and they give, and things you find interesting. Okay, so that's Windhoek there, and you come down to Kitmans, and Berseba, that's the other Christian town. Berseba, yeah. So Rehoboth is the first town after Windhoek. You keep coming down there. Kalkrad, Mariento, Asab, Berseba, Bethany. There's Kitmans there. I never did go to the shore to Swakop or something like that. Next time, one day, I hope to, and play on the sand dunes and so on. Yeah, I would love to go back to Namibia, of course, and see a lot of these things. And that's how I ended up having those videos you are seeing. Those are very lovely videos, well produced, actually. And if Zambia Tourism would make those would be lovely videos to have or to do for the different regions of Zambia. I mean, I'd be ready to do those any day if we had the resources, the money, the camera, the equipment, and so on and so forth. So and they're very well packaged. They show culture, they show flora and fauna, they show the wildlife, they show the landscapes. So in each video shows all those 4, and they also show they have a cooking thing at the end. So I found those videos interesting. I've had them for all this time, and then so I decided, Namibia Tourism Board, I was surprised that they hadn't put them on their own YouTube channel until just last year or something like that. So I decided, let me post them as well, and I hope you've been enjoying them. I'm proudly Zambian, but there's so much tourism in Zambia that you can't find in Namibia, and in Namibia that you can't find in Zambia. Like I said, Namibia is very arid. So they have sand dunes. We don't have sand dunes. They have a coast, they have a sea coast, so they've got an ocean. The Pacific, South Pacific Ocean is there. We don't have that, but we've got waterfalls, we've got national parks, we've got so much. You can literally advertise those 2 countries at the same time and not be in conflict. But yeah, I mean, this is Africa. Let's travel, let's see the world. It's a lovely place to be. I'd probably love to travel by bus as well. It's a heck of a long journey through Katimamulilo, then you come down into Windhoek, and so on. So yeah, one day I probably will, hopefully, God willing. One recent news item, we're in March 2023. I think early this month or late last month, Namibia and Botswana signed a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, which allows the citizens of either country to visit the other without the use of a passport. So if you're in Botswana and you want to go to Namibia, you just need your reg, your NRC, your national ID, whatever you call it. And then you can cross over into Namibia. If you're a Namibian, you can cross over into Botswana just using your national ID, your national registration card. Apparently that's in a move to make SADC more travel friendly. It was an agreement, and hopefully other countries are also going to do that. So we don't know how far that's gone with the other countries, but Namibia and Botswana are the first two countries to implement that. You'd think Namibia would do that with South Africa, because Namibia, if you know your history, was actually once a colony of South Africa. So Namibia was colonized by Germany for so many years in the scramble of Africa, and after Germany, Namibia was a colony of South Africa. So there's a lot of South African influence in Namibia as well, apart from the German influence. And then Namibia then got its second independence from South Africa and became an independent country. That's some political history. So yeah, that's story time with the Kumba guy about Namibia and Botswana. Hello everybody, I'm the Kumba guy, and I make travel and tourism videos from around Zambia and around the region. Please be sure to subscribe to this channel for more amazing tourism videos about places around Zambia and trips to and from different towns and cities.